In this podcast, we're going to talk about how to improve your 23.1 score. We'll break down how to review your video, then take that video review and create specific paces for each movement within the workout. We'll talk about when to do your redo, and then we'll give you some mindset tips on how to ensure that you're set up for success for not just your repeat, but also the final 2 workouts of the Open. So I think the primary group of people that's going to need to redo it are the people that are like vying to make it to quarterfinals. And the Beyond the Whiteboard stats came out, and I think the 90th percentile was 10 muscle ups for men and 2 for women, which was pretty. I mean, we were pretty good with our prediction.
Didn't y'all say that?
Yeah, I think we said 1 or 2 muscle ups, and then we said between 7 and 14. So I feel pretty good about that prediction. I saw it and I was like, oh, we got one right.
Yeah, too bad I had a typo on the video.
I saw that.
And I think knowing just historically too, with people redoing workouts, this is the data that's taken like this morning or yesterday, and so that'll go up a little bit. So I don't think people could hear this right now and be like, I'm safe. I think the 190 reps, the 10 muscle ups will probably go up to like 12 or 13 or potentially 14, and then maybe 2 or 3 reps on the lady side.
I don't know if we'll see that big of a jump, but I know people do retest, and this workout, I feel like to get just a couple extra reps is not, I mean, it's hard, but it's feasible. Like if you give yourself an extra 20 seconds, you might get another set of muscle ups.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So I just think like it's around that range. So
and so also thinking about averages, this probably means that the group of people that we be talking to that might be on the bubble is really striving to maybe for the men, like finish round 1 even at the highest level, or maybe just get a couple muscle ups at the lowest level. And for women, I'd say getting like somewhere between 5 and 10 muscle ups, or just trying to really beat get the best time. What I was going to say time cap. It's not time cap. What?
Tie break.
Tie break.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think really just giving people some strategic thoughts on how to get there. Because I think in this workout, from what I've seen, there's a lot of different ways to get enough time to get that many muscle ups.
It's very individualized. And I actually have a bunch of notes here from stuff that I've already sent out to a lot of my individual clients that a lot of them aren't redoing it, but just things that we immediately review and like, let's figure out what we could do better if you were going to do it on Monday. A lot of them have safe scores, but still I think it's just good to talk about the different points. You want to go like movement by movement?
Yeah, sure. What's your first point?
I mean, my first thought on this is like a lot of people are going out hotter than they should. And the row sucks you into that, because if you think of it like a 14-minute workout, are you pacing the row as if you're doing a 14-minute AMRAP straight up, or are you pacing the row as if you're just doing it one time and moving on? So what's the pace that you would hold if you're coming back to that row again in that workout, right? So if it was like, the workout that was like row cows, toe to bar, and single arm dumbbelling, power clean jerks, I think that you have to think of it like that when you're starting this workout. And a lot of people are going way faster than that.
Yeah, I've actually had that happen more so with either the real bubble athletes of trying to make the top 10% or the elite athletes. I feel like we watched the demo, it looked like those guys both held like 1600 and were getting off around like 210. And so I think people aimed for that as a target without thinking they might not have properly executed in the demo. Because I know Noah did the workout. He had a pretty solid score. I think it was like close to 300 in total reps. And he only rode at 1,300 the whole time. And then I saw people that rode at like 1,500 or 1,600 and then blew up and had to take too many breaks in the toes to bar. So it's really dependent upon what your fitness level is, how you push that. But for the most part, I'd say be more conservative there, because you're going to lose more time in the movements to come.
And I think you guys might have covered this in the first thoughts, but I think just to bring perspective, the amount of energy it takes to go from 1,300, which is finishing the 60 cals in 246, to going up to 1,400 to finishing in 235, that's a lot of effort. Like it's a very noticeable difference in effort across 60 calories just to gain 9 seconds, which you can lose way like super quickly in a massive muscle up break set.
Like or if you just getting to failure in toes to bar, because I saw that happen too. People got to failure and then had to do singles to finish out, and if you're doing that, you could easily lose that time. So
the amount of fatigue it creates going 9 seconds faster, trying to get off quicker, thinking like I need to get ahead in this workout, for the large majority of people listening to this, like that's not the strategy. That's not the way to go.
So
now,
no.
I have a caveat. Okay. So the other side to that is I've seen a lot of people take too long
Yeah.
You know, like
overpacing.
Noah is able to pace the row well because he's going to fly through all the gymnastics and ring muscle ups. Whereas some people that want to have more time on the ring muscle ups, they have to push a little bit and they have to give themselves time to get there. So I think, again, it gets very individualized. You have to just, after doing your first run through, you have to review and figure that out.
Yeah. So I would say that the low end of the pace threshold to be a top 10% finisher for female athletes would probably be somewhere between 1,000 and 1,200. And maybe even 900, 950 and 1,200.
Yeah.
And for male athletes, it's probably somewhere between like 1,150 1,150 and 1,300.
Yeah.
If you hold those paces, you still are able to have enough time throughout the course of the workout. Now, if you're somebody that's going to crush the work after the row, maybe you're on the higher end of that pace. Mm-hmm. If you're somebody that is... Or no, I said that backwards. If you're going to crush the stuff after the row, you might be able to go on the lower end of the pace for the rower. But if you're somebody that's going to get bottlenecked by 50 toes to bar no matter what, it might be worth it for you to push a little bit more aggressive on the row. But I think those brackets can kind of give you an idea of what pace to hold for the row.
Yeah, I mean, watching Lydia fish earlier, like she had an awesome performance in that. And I think obviously against the guys, she's going to be quite a bit slower. But she really took her time on the opening row and then just like, it was like she just slowly sped up through every movement as she went on. Yeah. And, I mean, it set her up very well.
Cool. What was the next point?
In the row, I think the big thing there, just to kind of review that, is just, pick one or the other. Make sure you're not underpacing or overpacing, and no. Toe to bar. People, again, just getting sucked into big sets.
Two biggest sets, yeah.
I watched my 2014 video, and I'm going to focus more on that one because it was better than this year's.
Sickest camera work of all time.
Yeah.
Did you film it?
Yeah, he actually did. Yeah.
No way.
Yeah. You could hear his voice when he was asking me like my name and region
nice.
And all that. Yeah, that's pretty
Was
cool.
it at Faction?
It was at Faction.
Nice.
Yeah. It was in Memphis, and Brandy judged me.
Nice.
My all-time judge, man.
Yeah.
I think she's judged me in every open workout.
One of my favorite stories.
Her or Ryan.
What was the one where, did you miscount in a workout that she was doing, or she miscounted? Like wall balls.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
No one miscounted. You want to tell the story real quick?
Yeah.
Sure. All right. Brandy used to be an accountant, and she would come home after work and have to do like qualifiers and training and stuff. And we would do it like in our garage and be like 6 at night, and the sun is down, and it's just like gloomy
by yourself.
And I think she's doing the Wadapalooza qualifier or a qualifier for a certain online comp. I can't remember. And the workout had like wall balls in it. And our target we had in the garage, I had like a hole cut out of the ceiling with a piece of wood set up, kind of like what we're doing right now. Yeah. And we had a lopsided wall ball, and she's doing wall balls in it, and it's like hitting her in the face. And I'm counting, and I'm like, I keep letting those out, and I'm trying not to. Like I love her, but it was funny. Yeah. And she snapped. She turns. She goes, "Stop laughing at me!" Throws the wall ball at me.
Whoa! Is there footage of this?
Yeah, I think we have it on video.
We need to get that.
Yeah. And my stepbrother's there, and he's watching, and he's like,
slowly walks out.
He starts to slowly recede out of the camera. He's like, "Mom and Dad are fighting." Yeah. Anyway, yeah.
Brandy's demeanor makes that funny.
She's like fiercely competitive.
Yeah, she's fiercely competitive, but she's also extremely nice. And
if you don't know her, she's very quiet to herself. That's very out of character.
Yeah.
Y'all don't know the Brandy I know.
Yeah. The Brandy everyone knows. All right, back to
toe to bar, getting sucked into big sets. I think going back to the 2014, I got 35 calories on the rower, and I never did anything larger than a set of 8 toe to bar. I did 8, 7, and then went to all 5s. So I think I'm just using that as an example that you don't have to do big sets to be successful in the workout. Like that was a great score back then, and it's actually a decent score now. I've just seen people like, again, not being disciplined, hopping on, and because they feel good, they have to go into it. And I think that goes back to the comparison I made of treating it like a true 14-minute AMRAP as if you're coming back to that movement. Yeah. Just because it's a chipper, not getting sucked in, that you have to get all the work done right away.
Yeah, and the other thing about toes to bar, just in the format, if you blow up your core on toes to bar, and then you go from there to wall balls to power cleans, when you get to muscle ups, if your core is still blown out, it's very hard to actually get through any quality reps of muscle ups. And then people are wasting so much time just doing doubles or singles in the muscle ups that they would have been better off giving like 30 seconds back to the toes to bar to not be blown up. So that way, when they get deeper in the workout, they're not like completely at their red line.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. So I think like I'm always a fan of descending rep schemes with chippers like that. So 8-7 go into 5s, or that's just for those that are around that threshold of what their capacity is in that movement, meaning like they're maybe in the getting to the muscle ups and getting a good chunk. But if you're like someone who's pushing to finish, like I think you just had to go bigger sets.
Yeah.
Even if it was like I saw people be very successful in the workout that were like opening with 15 and then 10 and then 5s. Yeah. So your opening sets could be a little more aggressive, but for a large majority of the rest of the people trying to improve on this, start smaller.
Yeah. I mean, I think for elite athletes, a set of 15 or a set of 20, or thinking of it like 3 or 4 sets to go through the 50s, not really that big of a deal. But if we're talking specifically to that group that's top 10%, I honestly feel like 5s or 8 as a biggest set is just a good model to. There's not that much of a cost in toes to bar just dropping down for a second and jumping back up, but it can save you a lot of extra energy expenditure.
Yeah, and I think it saves muscle endurance energy expenditure, meaning like
your grip just getting a reprieve.
So your time under tension is lower. People don't like the feeling of having to drop and get back up and take short rest breaks because it is kind of it feels a little more metabolically taxing in that way. But it's saving your grip, and you're not doing large sets, and you're removing tension by taking longer or more frequent breaks like that.
Yeah.
But it's like I always call that like discipline within the set. You want to keep going, and you don't want to have to stop because it's uncomfortable stopping and then making yourself get back up and go right away. But it's very successful.
Yeah.
And I think the same thing with the wall balls. Like I saw a lot of people, because it was easy. We've been training 30. It was, a normal target. They did too big of sets, and a wall ball break again is like, they're so fast and they're so quick that it's like, I just don't see why you wouldn't take more advantage of that. So doing like another descending rep.
4 sets of 10 or 12, 10, 10, 8 or something like that.
That's what I did back in the day, and I saw a lot of people do that. I saw a lot of people open and try and do 2 sets, open with a big set, and they regretted it. They said, it saved them time, but they regretted it because they slowed down the power cleans a lot.
Yeah. The power cleans into the muscle up, I feel like, is really the biggest separator for the getting into that top 10%. It seems like you can give up time on the rower and toes to bar, but generally speaking, it's those last 2 movements that is where I've seen the biggest separation, because it's deep enough into the workout that if somebody went out too hot, they're having to take rest breaks in the power cleans.
Yeah.
And the muscle ups, I feel like just doing them under that level of fatigue is a big challenge for people.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually felt, when I did it this morning, I actually felt my core get like kind of like re-taxed again in the power cleans. Yeah, like kind of catching and bracing and like making sure I was like trying to save my grip. So I was like pulling with my back a little more. And like it wasn't like rest. I could actually see where creating that intra-abdominal pressure to power clean to move it efficiently was creating a little bit of tax in the midline. I didn't feel that when I was in the wall balls. Like I didn't feel tax in my midline going from toe to bar to wall ball, and it kind of like, it's like it re-fired it up a little bit in the power cleans. But yeah, I think not having a disciplined strategy with the power cleans going into that, am I on a 1 rep every 4 to 5 second cadence? Because 1 rep every 4 seconds versus 1 rep every 5 over the course of 30 reps is a massive difference. It's 30 seconds, and I think that it's so easy to lose track of that. You take that 1 step away.
Or you take a one break that's 10 or 15 seconds long, and it just added basically half a second to all of your reps.
Yeah, so I think people went into it kind of just like not having a plan. Like they were like, I'm just going to start doing them, and I don't have any like discipline on like, what is my strategy here with maintaining like how I'm staying at this bar and getting these done. Back in the day, I did it in the power cleans in 2:07, and I'm seeing people take almost 3 minutes to do these because they get in, they do 10 reps, they chalk for 10 seconds when it's not necessary. Like you don't need to chalk doing power cleans. Like it's just kind of like,
it's light enough too. Yeah,
this hurts. I want to take a break and get away from it for a second. And I think the people just again, like if you just got to kind of grunt through those, and I don't think over-pacing those really helps in the moment.
Yeah. I wanted to go back real quick, toes to bar. So I watched you do the workout today. You got 19 muscle ups, right?
Yep.
So that's the top end of the threshold of what we would be talking about for a redo. You did about a 3-minute row, I think. You were like right under 3 minutes, I think, for the row.
Yeah.
And then about 3 minutes for the toes to bar after that. So I think that could be a good model for female athletes. It's probably going to be the same amount of time per toes to bar, but it's going to be just longer on the row because they're rowing at lower paces. But I think somewhere in a sub 3 target for toes to bar, maybe a little bit longer than that, is a pretty good target for people that are trying to get into the middle of the muscle up set or have enough time to get a couple muscle ups for girls.
Yeah, I mean, my tie break, I finished the power cleans. I think my tie break was like 9:40 something.
Yeah, so you had about
like
4.5 minutes.
Yeah. I would say like 4 minutes because finished power clean.
Yeah, walk over, chalk up. That is a long rest break.
That's a lot. And I'm seeing that pretty consistent across the board. So now we're talking about power cleans. Now we're moving to ring muscle ups. But I think the transition from power clean to ring muscle ups, people are like, I need to reduce that break. And I'm like, I don't think that's where you try to save your time in the workout, because if you don't rest well going in, you could not set the tone well going into the ring muscle up sets. I think it's the intra sets where you need to control the rest breaks better.
Yeah, I think it's getting, if you're looking at, like, you're going through a split analysis, are we going to put our little split calculator in the comments? You know, the open document we have where people can review their video and like look at
that's
their
exclusive for TTT compete members. Okay. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know.
All right.
Well, is it? I mean, if it's not, we will. If it is, we won't.
Right. Well, it might be in the comments.
Maybe.
If not, go through.
Join the program, bitches.
Just go through your workout and take split times of all your movements. Like, watch your video and figure out where you can save time. I don't think a lot of times people will look at the work time of everything and the transition time, and that big transition time right before the muscle ups after the power cleans is going to be one of these things that's like glaring at you, like, oh, this was 30 seconds. I definitely need to cut it. Or it took me, I heard out there, somebody's like, oh, I took a minute before I did my first muscle up. And I'm like, yeah, but you like might need a minute. If you're only going to be doing 7 of them, you might need a minute rest.
Yep.
I think the better thing to do is think about it that you were going to try to keep that rest close to the same as it was, but you're going to try to get there a little bit earlier.
Exactly.
As opposed to thinking that you're just going to be able to get there and tough it out, because the muscle up is such a high level skill for the people that are going to be on the cut line. I think getting there and realizing that you need the long break to make sure that your first set or your first rep is good is a much better thing to set you up for success than getting there, rushing the transition, going to do a muscle up and being like, oh my God, that felt like a 1RM, or missing it, or getting to the point of failure. So
No, I agree. I made these notes, the same notes for ring muscle ups. I said either get to ring muscle up sooner or get there more fresh. I think it's 2 strategies. And if you're going for your first rep, if you're someone who's listening to this and just trying to get time to have your first rep, you need to rest a while before your first attempt, if you have the time for it. If you get there and you have 3 minutes, man, take a long rest to make that attempt really count. And then if you're just aiming to get further along, I think all the strategies we talked about up to that point, and you need to get ready to work and grind through short sets. So I would say, like, if you're just going for that first attempt, more rest. If you're someone who's just trying to improve maybe like the 3 to 7 rep range, do the strategy that we had that gets you to the rings sooner, so that you can have basically the same rest break before starting your first, but now you just have more time on the clock to accumulate more reps. And then the third is for someone who's maybe trying to like finish them, wants to do better overall. I think the muscle up strategy that you choose there makes a massive difference. And using 2014 as an example, I got 35 calories on the rower. I had about 1:20 left. I think I finished the ring muscle ups at 12:21. And I did doubles up to 14 and then 6 singles.
Wow.
I know. Yeah. And watching it, I was like, how did that like work? You know, like, and
it's just discipline with the rest breaks and staying on top of everything.
I leaned on my engine a little bit at that time to do 2. I took it was like a 5-second chalk break, did 2 more, 5-second chalk break, 5 more. And then I just kind of kept doing that. So I remember in the moment it hurting really bad. I wasn't anywhere near pressing failure or anything like that, but I remember like my breathing just being like just messed up. So I think people don't want to do that. They want to do big sets, take long breaks. And again, like everyone, it's very individualized. You have your own strategy. But I think if you haven't tried that, I think you should.
The other thing that I've seen for the people that are kind of bubble is that people had enough time to get those numbers of muscle ups, but they failed a bunch of reps. So I talked to somebody today and they got, I think, 1 or 2 muscle ups, but they had 6 or 7 failed attempts. And I'm like, all right, well, you had the capacity then to do 9 or 10, which puts you like at the 90% threshold. But it really is dependent as you go through your strategy to evaluate and figure out, okay, well, did I have the capacity to do 9 or 10, or was I trying to do them too quick? And I'll be better off in my next one trying to go like one on the 30 seconds and only get 4 muscle ups.
Yeah.
So that kind of plays into the strategic thinking depending upon how your first attempt actually went. If you went and you executed really well and you were like, oh, it's just too conservative, then it's like, okay, I got to throttle up some of this early stuff.
Yep.
If you went and you blew up and you knew that you took like way too long in the wall ball power cleans because you were blown up from the row toes to bar, then you might, throttle back in the beginning.
Yep.
If you paced it well, but then you broke down just specifically in the muscle ups, your next attempt might not have to be anything different. It might just be when you get there, be a little bit smarter and more conservative with when you are jumping up into the rings. Like you might need to take a longer transition before your first rep and make sure that every single one of them counts. So I think the psychology of open repeats is a really important one here, because this one, people have their old scores. People have done this a lot of times. It's a high level skill that has to be done under fatigue. It's the first one. People are seeing the leaderboard. People who did it early are seeing their workouts get crushed by other people.
Yep.
So that really plays into, I almost feel like it messes with people's minds.
Yeah.
And then they can't be rational about like, okay, well, what's my real capacity here? Because everyone wants to be better than they are, but the workout gives you some sort of indication like, all right, well, this is like where you are within reason, like within a couple percentage points on both sides. So make sure that you're really going back and evaluating what you did to make sure that your plan the next time sets you up, because I think this is one of those workouts where 1 or 2 reps could ultimately end up being the thing that keeps somebody out of making quarterfinals. Because if you project out in time and say, okay, let's say you finished in the 90th percentile in both of the second 2 workouts in 2 and 3, and that first one, you were 1 muscle up shy. 1 muscle up could be the difference of like 5 percentile points on this, just because of how it shakes out, that it's the end of the workout. And there's so many people at each one of those numbers. It's not like ending on a set of 100 double unders where they're distributed through all of those little reps. They're just distributed through 20 little muscle ups.
Yeah, for sure.
Or 20 big muscle ups.
Yeah, definitely. I think another big one I'm seeing is people, I mean, the muscle ups are placed in this workout they're really hard. You know, like this is one of the harder placements of muscle ups I've seen in a lot of workouts that we've done. And I just don't think people were ready and expecting that. And I'm seeing them look fine when they do them, but they're just not. It's almost like you need someone to push you back on the rings to be like, go, you can do these.
Yeah, you're not going to fail.
Yeah, like you're just breathing really hard. Like you can do it. So I think on that side of it, for those that are a little more advanced in the workout, like having someone like push you along and just be like, look, like it's supposed to be uncomfortable right now. The workout kind of ends here if you want to get back to that rower. So go for it. Yeah,
I think it progresses for the people that are on the cut line. You have to. I mean, I think for most people, it's going to get progressively easier the longer you're at muscle ups. I know the muscle ups are still hard, but you have to break between them.
Yeah.
And if you're close to failure and you're only getting somewhere between 3 and 15 muscle ups, there's plenty of time for that.
Yeah.
I mean, 4 minutes means that you're jumping up doing 2 and resting 20 or 30 seconds. So if you were at 180 beats per minute heart rate, by the end of it, like you're trending down and then you do a set, it goes up a little. And by the end, you're
normalized.
You're almost recovered.
Yeah.
It's not recovered because it's still hard.
Yeah, that's an interesting observation that we talked about earlier that I saw. Let's this is more for like, I guess, more higher level elite scores, but something I'm seeing when someone is finishing the muscle ups, let's say like the 12 to 12:30 range, and they have a minute and a half to row, they are shit the first 30 seconds of that row. Because they had less time to recover on the intrasets of the ring muscle ups. So they get off the ring muscle ups, finishing at a faster pace, really tore up going into the row, versus someone who finishes the ring muscle ups at like 13 to 13:30. Assuming that it took them a little bit longer to actually finish the muscle ups, not that they got there longer or after, they're more recovered and more powerful on the row, and they're actually getting pretty close to someone who was almost a minute ahead on the rower. They're actually finishing within a couple of calories. So we saw that with the girls the other day or yesterday. So Lauren, Jordan, and Allison went. Now Allison's a world-class rower, but like she was pretty far behind the other two. They finished the ring muscle ups well ahead of her. Lauren was the first to finish the muscle ups, and they all finished within 4 calories of each other. And some of them had 30 to 45 second difference. So just like having the ability to have a little bit of a power like powerful kick on the road makes such a massive difference.
Yeah.
I'm not suggesting you pace it in that way, but it is interesting that like you're not out of the race.
Yes.
Even though you're behind on the ring muscle ups, get to the row and you can just drop the hammer.
Yeah. So that would be well above the 10% cut line.
Yeah.
So this would be specifically to people that are, you know, really good quarterfinals athletes or potentially semifinal level athletes. But if you had time and you got on the rower and you weren't really pulling at all and your average calorie per hour pace was really low, there could actually be a strategy of slowing down before getting to that last row so you can be more powerful and actually sprint on it.
Yeah.
That's just a kind of a little nuanced thing that you'd have to
thing,
play with. So maybe not as relevant to the group that's watching, but it is something that I thought is interesting sometimes in workouts like this. Depending on where you end on it, that dictates what your strategy is to get your best score on it.
Right. Like finishing the ring muscle ups at 12:30 and running to the rower thinking your workout's almost over probably isn't the smartest thing. It's like take a few breaths, get on, settle in, and then you can start kind of pacing it out to know I still have 90 seconds to row on this.
Yeah.
Anyway.
For a male athlete, if you can sprint for 45 seconds, you might be able to accumulate as many calories as a 90-second suffering end of workout.
That's exactly
pull.
what we're seeing. Yeah. It's pretty wild.
Yeah.
Here's a question for you guys. When I go back and watch my video, what should I be looking for?
So I think pace on the rower. So that should be something that you should kind of remember. Like what pace did you hold and how long did it take you first? Transition to start your first toes to bar. The set times and rest breaks between every toes to bar. The transition from that to the wall ball. And basically you do that for every single movement. You need how long the work took you and then how much you rested in between. And now if you do that right and you have somebody that can be there to help you and hold you accountable, you can really back engineer the workout for yourself to say, okay, the next time I do it, let's just say, for example, I evaluated mine, which I didn't do, but I did a set of 10 and then I rested 15 seconds. Then I did a set of 10 and then I rested 20 seconds and then a set of 10 and rested 25 seconds and then a set of 10. Then I can go, okay, next time I do this, I want to do a set of 10. I want to cut this rest break from 10 seconds to 7 seconds. My next one from 15 to 13 or 12. And I could actually have a judge, not a judge, but a counter or one of my training partners or a coach to be there and count off my rest breaks for me. Because once you've went through it one time, first of all, you know what it feels like. So you've already dealt with the suffering. You already know, like, okay, this is the discomfort. This is where I failed in the workout. So almost always the second time you do it, you have an advantage on yourself because you've already experienced it. But then you can be really mathematical about saving yourself those time breaks.
For sure.
And if you had no reps, being like, okay, I need to be more disciplined with throwing over the target because that cost you a certain amount of time. So hopefully that document we created is not private just for TTT Compete or sign up and get it.
Yeah. I mean, the second exposure always is, I don't want to say less uncomfortable, but it's more known. Like you're less surprised by it. And I think this is one of those workouts that now that you know what it feels like getting punched in the face, being at the ring muscle ups under that level of fatigue, you're kind of ready for it and you know how to handle it in the moment better. So I think I could definitely see like massive improvements on redos on this. Oh, massive.
A couple reps, but
that is massive.
Massive on the leaderboard.
That's 30 seconds, you know, on a 14-minute workout. So I think you laid out the strategy breakdown very well. And I also think the hand holding basically is what I call it, with someone pacing you through it is extremely helpful. As an example, let's say I wanted to finish my muscle ups this time. I'm just going to assume that my muscle up speed isn't going to change just with where it's at and where my training is.
Your wall balls are probably not going to change.
So my strategy would be, I just need to get there sooner. Like I'm going to look at what I did. Where could I speed up my toe to bar? Where could I adjust my row? Where could I speed up my wall ball breaks? Could I get more time in the power cleans? And I would just try to create some extra time there to give me the extra 20 to the 30 seconds I might need to get the muscle ups done and get on the rower, which is super manageable with, like an attempt like that.
Yeah. So, you got another one.
I got a couple more questions. Did you have a point first?
I did. I was thinking about setting expectations, and the Open is a 3-week thing. So if you're trying to make it into quarterfinals, you're not going to win it or lose it on the first workout. Now you can definitely do poorly enough that you can keep yourself out, but you can do pretty bad and still make up those points in the next 2 workouts because there's so many people on the leaderboard. And if you have a strength come out, that can be like, okay, you just did 3rd percentile on one workout. It gives you a pretty big buffer on the other one.
Yeah.
So this type of a workout,
Rafa Nadal it.
yeah, exactly.
Always
Get a couple
behind in
sets
the
back.
set. Yeah, and then just
we both watched.
bring it home.
Yeah, I wouldn't have known that if I didn't watch that show. But on this workout, like Mike said, 1 extra muscle up or 2 extra muscle ups could be 30 seconds over a 14-minute long workout. That is a huge, huge progress. Now, if you take an aggressive strategy in your repeat and you go to do muscle ups and then you get to failure, it's possible that you could do worse on your repeat.
Yep.
So just put it in perspective that it's not a guarantee on this style of workout that ends with a high complexity skill that your repeat will yield a better result. But if you go into it knowing, okay, 1 or 2 extra reps or 3 extra reps is what I'm striving for, and you're prepared for the intensity of how difficult every single one of those reps are, I think it is a workout that people can improve on.
I think the big message is that you need to review it so that you know what needs to be improved instead of just going in and thinking, I'm just going to try again. I'm just going to try hard again.
Yeah, I think this isn't the type of workout where like you can grit like if it's a row burpee test, you might not need to go through and look at like every single rest break and all of that, because it's like, all right, I know I got slower in round 3, just like don't get slower there.
Yeah.
But this one is a very tactical workout. I feel like all chippers are like, you know, they call Brent the professor and he has always excelled at chippers. And I think a lot of that is because chippers bring in a lot more strategy to play.
Yeah.
Question from the Peanut Gallery.
Yes, I got a couple.
Okay.
So if I'm doing this workout, is there like a point during it where I should maybe consider stopping if I'm not doing what I think I should be to then have another attempt?
So I would, to have another attempt.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Sometimes
yeah.
that happens. You come out, you're like, whoa, is there any?
I would say the only time you would stop this is if you're in the muscle ups and you failed a bunch of them. But if you're that deep into the workout already, I feel like you just chalk it up that, because remember, it's a 3-week competition. So let's say you do a second attempt on Monday morning and you stop in the muscle ups and you're like, oh, I can do it again. And you do it Monday evening and then it doesn't go well. Now you've just spent a whole day doing the same movements. That's going to potentially impact training for Tuesday, Wednesday, maybe run you down and make it harder to stay dialed in for the next 2 weeks of the Open. So I would say, do you have a...
No, go ahead.
No.
I'll finish. I was going to say, I think trust what you know about yourself as an athlete too, right? So if you know that like a lot of these movements were your extreme weaknesses right off the bat, then you might just have to take it on the chin and take your risk and move on and save it so that you can be fresh for your coming attempts with, you know, that these movements are done now. Most likely there's been one repeat movement ever, but most likely we're not going to see toe to bar and ring muscle ups again. So if like that's the movement that's keeping you out, trust that what else is coming up, that you can make up that ground, you know? So I think that's just the risk. And if you're someone who's just doing multiple repeats, like I watch people's performance just slowly decline over the course of the 3 weeks that do excessive repeats.
Yeah. So only the end of the workout, if you know that you're not going to beat your score, like jumping up there and, you know, cranking your shoulders out and getting 2 less reps, it just doesn't make sense.
I know. I mean, the ego gets in the way. It's like, I'll never quit. I never quit a workout. And it's like, you're 45 seconds off pace. Like, you're not going to make that up.
And when do y'all recommend these people do their redo? And when do we do it and compete?
Monday.
Monday is when it's set up in our compete split where we have people. We basically said Friday, Saturday, do some practice, strategy work, sweat a little bit, promote recovery. Sunday, rest, and then Monday come in and attack.
And then scores are due at 8 p.m. Eastern. Is that right? Or 5?
Don't ask me that.
Yeah, I thought it was. Wasn't it the
Pacific?
same time that it's released? Isn't it 3 p.m. now? 3 p.m. Eastern?
I don't know. Go to the game site and look.
Yeah,
don't quote us on it.
Well, I guess that was going to affect my next question, though. I was going to say, is there a time of day you recommend going? Or
Man, I always tell people, I'm like, if you're doing it on Monday and you have the ability to be flexible with work schedule and all that, I think do it when you're fresh.
Yeah, whenever you feel your best to do it.
Yeah, I mean, cognitive work, stress, and programming or coaching, being on your feet, like all that has an impact cognitively that goes in and can affect your performance. So I think the sooner you can do it, as fresh as you are, the better.
Yeah, I mean, I guess going to your point, so let's just say we don't have the time right now, which we should get.
Here, I'll pop it up while you're talking.
Okay, so let's just say it's 3 p.m. Eastern time. Let's say somebody has a 9-to-5 job, so they can't do it at nighttime on that day, and they don't normally train at 7 a.m. Sunday evening might be a better repeat time for you to do it. Like make sure you set yourself up for success. Now, in a best case scenario world, we like the idea of what we do with the intermediate athletes
5 p.m. Pacific Monday.
5. So that's 8. Is that 2 p.m. our time or no? That's 8 p.m. our time.
Yeah. 3 hours behind us.
Yeah. Okay.
It's 8 p.m.
So everyone should, you have the whole day. So I would say whatever your normal training structure is, if you normally do a double, an AM and a PM, I would say when you're fresh, do it as your AM session. Or if you know your evenings are usually better and you're just a double athlete, come in and do something real easy, sweat, like move for your AM, and then come back and hit it.
Yep.
And what is the intermediate group? That's our people who are going to be doing redos and TTD compete. What do you have them doing the rest of the week? So how should these, they've done it twice now. How are they going about the rest of their week to prepare for Thursday?
Tuesday is a little bit lower impact. We're still going to get some training movements in, like with movements that haven't been tested yet, just to make sure they're still staying sharp on those things. But Tuesday is taken into consideration that you just competed the day before. And then Wednesday is kind of like a little taper session. You've got some strength work, speed work, and then doing like a short little stinger just to kind of prime you and make you feel ready for Friday.
Yeah, this comes down to sometimes when people listen to elite athletes and the way they approach the open or the way they approach things, it can be misleading because, Noah can jump into the workout and just smash it and it's no big deal and it's just another thing. But for somebody who's striving for the top 10%, generally speaking, like you don't have as much competition experience, you don't have as much resilience, and you're trying to make sure that you're doing well over all 3 workouts. So training through the open is supposed to help you continue to get better, but it's really also more so to make sure that you're peaked for these 3 tests.
Yes.
So if you're an intermediate athlete, don't get caught up in the idea that you need super hard training.
Yep.
You have 2 maximal effort doses of CrossFit on open attempt 1 and open attempt 2. You don't need that much more in the week. So like EMOM based structures, intervals, shorter stuff on Wednesday. That's what you'll see in the intermediate path, but that could just be like a guideline for somebody that's not in the program.
Yeah. Mia talked about that in our cycle overview leading into this one. And then also in the most recent video, we said just how we're training through the open is in the intermediate, just get used to lower training volume. It doesn't mean that the path is easier. It just means everything is set up to be at your peak Monday and Friday or Friday, Monday. Yeah. And people just aren't used to feeling like they're in a competition, which means less training around that time.
Yeah.
So,
you want to feel better, right? You get into the
fresh.
Yeah.
You got plenty of sleep and you're ready to kick ass.
And people are just used to doing so much and moving all the time that's nervous energy. So they just want to do more. And it's like, just stay patient, stay disciplined, and allow all that built up.
You're not going to lose your fitness.
Yeah, exactly. All that nervousness, built up energy, put it into the workout attempt.
Yeah, that actually is, I think, one of the primary things you need to learn. If I think of an intermediate competitor, like I compete, or at least if I can do the open this year, I want to just make it into quarterfinals, but I'm an experienced competitor in that I've competed a lot in my life. So I'm used to anxiety, but as people are kind of coming up the ladder and they're like, okay, they're coming out of the teen division or they're going into quarterfinals as they're like trying to make it into their first one. I think one of the biggest things that they have to deal with is the anxiety of going from like the intermediate path in the off season is hard training sessions, and it's a lot of them. And I'm guessing people are really sore when they're doing that. Now you get into competition. It's like, no, you don't want to feel like that all the time. Like that's where you built your training base, so that now you can feel like you have more left in the tank in every session except those 2 workouts, not where you're overextended.
Yeah,
for
it should feel like less, which is a good sign that you prepared correctly. Shouldn't feel easier. I don't say that. It should be the hardest you've ever tried, but it should feel like less.
Yeah, less total work in the week.
Yeah.
And then my last question is for the people who go out there, they give it their best, and they come up short or they don't improve by as much as they want.
Yeah.
What thoughts do you have for them to continue out the rest of the 2 weeks?
Yeah. Well, you go.
You go, because
my thoughts organize your thoughts.
Yeah, mine are quicker. Mine are always shorter.
My first thought that came to mind was a title. It was actually of Conor McGregor's old coach's book. It's called Win or Learn. And I feel like that mindset is a really good thing to reframe losses. People who are competitive hate losing and they always want to win. But when you participate in sport and you're trying to get to a higher and a higher level, you have to get used to it. Like you only see the champions that talk about dominance that have these mind states of always winning. There's only like 5 of those people in the world in every sport. And in CrossFit, every year you do the Open, you're probably going to lose every single test. So getting used to the fact that your expectations when you compete cannot be met, or you can go through a great training cycle and then you can get a tweak, or you go through a great planning session and then you show up on Monday to do a workout with a better strategy, but for whatever reason, the stars don't align on that. The challenge for you as a competitor, if that happens, is figuring out, how do I turn this adversity into something that I can learn from that puts me into an optimistic frame of mind that then I can go out and crush workout number 2 and workout number 3. Because what ends up happening in that 10% threshold is the people that give up because they let their expectations down in week 1 are the ones that fall under the cut line, because then they drop out of the competition, or they say they're not, they didn't try, and then they stop doing repeats, and then they kind of mentally.
I had a wedding. I didn't want to.
Yeah, exactly. That's me. But if you can keep your mental state focused on the fact that, like, hey, you trained for this. This is what you wanted to do. There's no freaking guarantees in sports. No one is guaranteed that if they work hard or if they work smart or if they do all this shit that they're going to be guaranteed. But it's about the effort and the focus and the mentality to try your best to do it and see it all the way through and learn from that experience. And I've found that the athletes that have that mindset, they fail a lot less frequently, because that mentality is the thing that usually pushes people through the threshold, right? Yeah. It's like, okay, things didn't go according to plan, but I can still be great on the next 2, right? It's that positive reframe of not turning it into an opportunity to just beat the shit out of yourself because you're like, I suck. This didn't go well. I hate the Open. I hate these tests. Yeah. So positive mental attitude would be my...
I love it. I don't want to follow up to that. I think you
come on, Mike, what you got?
No, I think mine is from the perspective more for the coaches in the trenches that are handling these emotions for all the athletes, so all the gym owners, all the affiliate owners, all the individual coaches, basically everyone that is there helping someone go through this process. I've always kind of, in a way, despised it a little bit. Like I just want it over, because I had a hard time handling all the emotions from athletes during that time. You go into it, and I want everyone to be happy all the time. I don't want to deal with people's failures, their emotions, them being sad. It's hard.
Especially at a high volume.
And a high volume
all at once.
At a higher level. Like it's stressful. This year I'm at peace because I feel like finally this season, I feel super confident with everything I've done to help my athletes prepare. Yeah. And I really focus on that. So I think as coaches, you need to focus on that. And if you don't feel confident with that, then you need to be honest about your systems you had leading into it that would challenge that confidence. You're like, why do you not feel that way? Now to me, it's an awesome process to get to sit back, watch the athletes do their thing, like finally see how they get to react to the test and all the hard work they've put in. And as a coach, I know that it's not going to be perfect. I know that expectations aren't going to be met. And so I think as a coach, just the mindset that Max just talked about, carrying that into or explaining that to athletes so that you can help them understand that it is a learning process and that it's going to be uncomfortable. And as a coach, you can't expect everything to be perfect. An athlete could be in tip-top shape and then they show up and they just choke in the moment, and shit happens.
A little bit of adrenaline dump.
But they're going to learn from it. They're going to get better, and you're going to get better as a coach on how to communicate it. So I think it's nice to be able to like really thoroughly enjoy this process. And like, I'm so excited to see like the rest of the season play out.
Cool. That's all I got.
All right.
Same.
Good luck, you freakers.